Shows up on both. Yeah, if you don't want to do it, it just automatically shows up on
Yeah. You know, it was hot when they got there.
So Rachel. You can speak at that point. I don't need both.
Oh, I did check. How did you? Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, it does. Can put you, have to go sit in the car.
I want to call to order the joint meeting between City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission. It is Tuesday, August 6th. It's 5 p.m. Please rise for a pledge. Okay, item 1.0, public comments and announcements. At this time, I would like to listen to any member of the audience on any subject matter, whether or not that item is on the agenda. All comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for each speaker, shall be limited to city business or city-related business or matters of general public interest, and shall not include any personal attacks. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, members may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. When your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name and address clearly in the microphone before making your comments. Gary, you want to open your meeting?
Okay, I've called the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. And the time is 5 o'clock. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, Chris Israel.
Hold on.
Oh, wait a minute, Chris. Are you speaking on the warehouse? Or?
No, I don't know why it was supposed to be about the
Okay,
warehouse.
not a problem. We'll do the warehouse first, since it's a public meeting. You want to speak on the warehouse?
Well, it was going to be the warehouse and then other general for, so do I need to wait for the 5:30?
Yeah.
For the general, just speak on the warehouse portion here?
Yes.
Copy that. I'm sorry, I scratched my name out on
And
the
it's-
other one. I was,
That's okay. It's a public,
Speak on the warehouse.
it's a public hearing, so you can speak at the meeting,
And
at the
anything.
public hearing. You don't have to speak now if you don't want to. You can speak during the meeting.
so hold off.
Yes.
10-4.
I'll call you in a minute.
Everybody, thank you for joining. Appreciate the,
I'll call you in a minute.
happy to be here.
I'll call you in a minute. Kevin Lilly, that's all, you're also speaking on the warehouse?
Yes, sir. Me and Chris did one. Good.
I'm going to open a public meeting.
Good evening. My name is
Citizen
Kevin Lilly. I live at 1825 Wallington Lane. I did have a prepared thing, but I seemed to misplace it, so I'm going to speak just off the top of my head. 2 years ago, we were here. Similar situation, maybe smaller scale this time. The biggest problem, though, is still the damn intersection. I heard one of the council members talk about it on a podcast recently. Nothing's been done. But yet you still want to put more vehicles in a bad situation. Not only that, you're building more homes east of 146 that's going to add more traffic. And until you do something on that intersection, you shouldn't be looking at putting warehouse and big trucks back there. You're only asking for trouble. Look at how many trucks you dug out of the ditches over there off of Red Bluff and the curves this past year. What are you going to do when there's a major incident back there and people can't get out? You don't have a plan. You don't have the police force to enforce rules. The man who's the developer the other day was saying he can't keep the people from going south on old 146. True statement. Every day you go down there and there's trucks every day coming south. They come down to the intersection, go to the light, they block traffic, and then they make the right-hand turn and go north. There's no reason for that. If you want to do something like that, force them all going north immediately. You got trucks parking on the feeder road of 146 at times to go into the Shell service station to get food and stuff. You don't ticket them. If you're looking for revenue, put your DOT inspections out there and ticket these trucks and the drivers. That's a tax revenue, but you don't do it. The other problem is, though, you don't listen to your constituents. This is a battle that you've been listening to for 2 years now, and here you are again, and you haven't done a darn thing to correct the problems that people bring to you. I rest my case.
Thank you. Deborah DeLuca? These are people that signed up for comment.
Hello, I'm Deborah DeLucia. I live at 929 Mystic Village Lane, and I've been a 25-year resident of Seabrook, which was our dream home, place we wanted to retire. I just finished paying off my house, and this high place in the neighborhood has become a nightmare. We have more crime, more homeless people invading the parks, even there at Friendship Park, and bringing in these warehouses is only going to bring more crime and more people. We even had a young man who was homeless commit suicide at the park just, I don't know how many months ago. I just don't like seeing what's happening. Not only is the traffic terrible there, it is a hazard in case of an emergency and people being blocked in there. All of us have had almost run into trucks there. If you pull out and go north, you can't hardly even drive on 146 because of the truck traffic. It's going to be exactly like that there. It's going to be dangerous to even get on the highway anywhere around there. You know, we have to stand up for the old part of Seabrook in a way that we can help bring businesses besides truck stops, side of the road fast food joints, and that's all we're seeing. All these other businesses are empty. Our strip malls are empty because that's all we're going to be, is just like all the other little side of the road left behind towns that have nothing but road stops on the side, truck stops, you know, tooting totems, places like that. That's all that's going to be here left. You know, we need to really concentrate on bringing other things here. And I was here 2 years ago also saying, please listen to us in Mystic Village and everywhere over on the east side of 146. Listen to your citizens. We do not want this. And I was so upset when I watched that podcast too and saw there was maybe 2 members stand up for the citizens and say, yes, these people don't want this. But everybody else seems to forget what we all went through. And this place was loaded with people then. Right now, you're having a meeting at 5 o'clock where most people can't even get over here because, you know, we're working. Most people are. So please, I'm not only speaking for myself, I'm speaking for most all of my neighbors on Mystic Village Lane who also see the truck traffic come through there and people that want to cut through our neighborhood. It hasn't stopped trucks. We will see 18-wheelers coming down through our neighborhoods down Toddville because they do shortcut through there when there's a traffic jam. So please just keep in mind that this is not what the taxpayers want.
Thank you. Katerina McGuire?
Hi, I'm Katrina McGuire. I live at 1818 Wallington Lane in Mystic Village. I relocated from California to Texas about 25 years ago. And when I saw Seabrook and how beautiful it was the closest thing I'd seen that reminded me of my hometown. I lived in Huntington Beach, and aside from the water might be a little prettier in California, everything else here in Seabrook reminds me of home. And I hate to see this beautiful town being commercialized, and that's exactly what's happening with all these warehouses and everything that everyone's proposing. Everyone's echoed the sentiments and the worry of the traffic, which I equally have concerns of that, of the crime, of our children not being able to play safely. I work in the real estate industry, and mark my words, this will affect our home values. And as one lady said that paid off her home, my home is also paid off. We've got 9 grandkids. And while certainly I don't let them play on Red Bluff, right? They're a little young for that. But I don't want them to have to deal with the traffic and the crime and the potential problems as they grow older and want to go to Friendship Park and play, want to do other things in the city. And we do need small businesses to come into our city so it can thrive and be the eclectic, wonderful place that it always has been. There's so many businesses here in Seabrook that are just they've been here, they've thrived here. And now they've all been driven out for various reasons. The construction certainly didn't help. And then you've had Ike and you've had Harvey, and some of those have taken these businesses out. But they're not being able to reestablish because of the restrictions. So we need to turn our thoughts to those businesses and help them thrive and see how that's going to bring revenue to the city for sure, taxes for sure, and visitors here spending their tax dollars. We need to have the visitation, Visitors Bureau be more active and bring people into. All that will help our city thrive. Why should we always have to drive across the bridge into Kemah and give them all our money? No, I say absolutely no to this facility. And many of my neighbors that cannot be here due to work and children obligations echo my sentiments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Denise Schaefer?
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Schaefer. I live at 1302 Plymouth Rock Lane in Mystic Village. Thank you for allowing us this time to speak to both the commission and the council. Overall, I'd like to say that I am against the warehousing. Warehousing in and around Port Houston is already surrounding our local small cities, primarily residential areas. Personally, I never thought I would see warehouses, this side of Kirby on Red Bluff Road, but now these lay down yards and all these things are there. So they're here and they are expanding at a rapid pace. When you live in a small city, a bedroom community such as Seabrook, this is why we moved here. I, like the others, have almost paid for my house and kind of would like to stay, but it's not looking good right now. What you want is, like they said, small businesses, things that foster the type of community that you were attracted to in the first place, why you came here. I raised my daughter here. She's now 24 years old. Fabulous place to raise a child, but I'm glad she's not little and running about right now because I would be pretty concerned about the traffic and the things that flow through our neighborhood. The other thing is while that is my overall concern, it's literally the daily commute in and out of my house to work. It highlights what's going on with the trucks. First, we endured the 146 expansion, including the closure of the overpass over Red Bluff. This was for at least 9 months. I don't know if it went 9 months to a year, but I know I couldn't go to work every day without a police officer being there so I could get across 146 to go make my living. So we got that done. 146 opens. We're all very excited. I thought that would really help with the traffic. I thought it would be so much better. And it is better. There's not officers there anymore, right? So that is a plus. But to leave the house daily, it's not uncommon to see it clogged up with trucks coming in from the warehousing and the other, in the port, coming to our light to go across and, head on down the way. I don't understand why that big warehousing facility has been there for a good long time. Why that it hasn't been addressed to make sure that they are routing traffic appropriately out of that warehousing facility so as not to impede regular residential traffic on a regular basis. I'm not sure why that's not been done. Even the port saw the need to have to build a big flyover so that they could try to get trucks in and out of there. And I know they've changed gate facilities, done a multiple of things to try to move the commerce through. And as a disclaimer, y'all, I'm in the maritime industry. Okay, so not in the container business, but I work for Oddfell also that owns a business there on Port Road. So I make my living by maritime affairs. I know this can be done better, smarter, where it won't affect citizens in the way that it is right now. So we have all these issues. It's hard to get across east and west. And now we're going to put another warehouse there to join with the other trucks so that it makes it that much more difficult to do what we need to do every day, go to work, take our kids to practices, go to school, whatever it is that you're doing in your lives. It does make it very challenging, and we won't even talk about emergency response. So that's another level of complexity that we would face. But I thank you for allowing me to speak and to voice my concerns. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Richard Green?
My name is Richard Green. I live at 2009 Yorktown Court in Seabrook in Mystic Village. I just had a couple things about the intersection at Red Bluff and 146. And I'm not sure what the easement issues are there, but I don't know, has it ever been considered that trucks coming out of the port that make a turn there, 90% of them go northbound on the feeder road? Is there not a reason they couldn't put a turnaround lane there like you would under an overpass where they don't even come into the intersection? That would free up a whole lane. The other thing is the traffic signals there are still set up for during construction. Movement on the feeder roads, you get like 2 minutes of green lights to go north and south, while our coming out of our area and crossing that, you get 30 or 40 seconds. 5 or 6 cars get through. I don't know why the state of Texas and the city can't get together and resequence these signals. That would help alleviate a lot of the congestion there, especially with the truck traffic. And the last thing is, I'm not talking about truck traffic. In Mystic Village, I'm a real frequent walker of our neighborhood, and I don't understand why every truck for the city of Seabrook comes out of the Public Works has to go through our neighborhood. They all come down Park Road and out Mystic Village to go south. Why don't they just take Red Bluff Road down to the end and come out down there? Every truck comes through our neighborhood. With all the other traffic we have in the neighborhood, kids out there playing and all that, I think someone needs to address that issue too, because it's not safe. I can't tell you how many times I've almost gotten run over walking my dog across the street because of all the truck traffic there. And we're a big problem with it, the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Israel? Go ahead.
So I am going to address this, then I'll do the next meeting. So, City Council, Mr. Mayor, so we've heard the voices of Seabrook time and time again. 2 years ago, we came out with huge opposition to the warehouses. We came to you, the City Council, but yet you guys had blatant disregard to the decisions that we said we do not want. You came in direct opposition to the city's mission statement with the warehouses and the way Seabrook is going. In case we forgot what the Seabrook city mission is, I'm gonna go ahead and read it to you guys to bring light to this, because when I first moved to Seabrook, it was a quaint, beautiful waterfront town. I agree with everybody. We need to bring in the small businesses, make it beautiful the way it is. Commercialize it, do not industrialize it. We already have a giant plant that's sitting right in our way, which wasn't there when I moved here. But I can't hate a plant because I work for a refinery, so they're making money. Vision of Seabrook is sustainable, energetic, and beautiful coastal community that embraces environmental stewardship, fosters safe neighborhoods, promotes tourism and economic diversity. So that's our vision. We don't have that vision anymore. I can tell you that right now. The mission of the city of Seabrook is responsive, innovative, financially sound in delivering services that preserve, protect, and enhance the quality of life. None of this is going to do that, especially for the residents of Mystic Village. It's the second time we've come out here and said we do not want this warehouse. It would really, really be a shame that we had to do it again. And according to the special budget meeting, fiscal year 2025, the city is now slated for 3 warehouses and 2 more apartment complexes. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to remind you of something you said on April 2nd, and I will quote this. They're all on the east side because the west side isn't developable. They come out in droves whenever we try to bring something to the west side of 146. It's available. Nobody in Lake Cove wants anything built against their houses. We in Mystic Village do not want anything built against ours either. Thank you.
Thank you. JP Byers?
Good morning, or sorry, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I hope to God that I don't go over 4 minutes, but it's probably going to. I want to address everybody in this room, not just council. I mean, everybody in this room. One of the things that every single person in this room complained about is that council has not been listening. But on top of the council not listening, I also think that it's an understandable grievance, but it's council's job to push innovation in our communities. Now, the people of Seabrook, I can tell you this: anything off of Old Port Road, north of Red Bluff, will never be developed for residential, and it is a waste of our time, money, and effort to try to not build something. But ma'am, I sat there with you many times leaving my friends' houses in Mystic Village. And you were right, Red Bluff is a mess. The fact that we don't have enough police officers that are stopping these trucks, driving in non-trucking areas where they're non-through trucks. I used to live on Kirby before I moved over to Seabrook proper. And I used to get in these guys' ways. Before this, I ran a 250,000 square foot warehouse before I became a real estate agent. I understand the need and the tax revenue that our city brings from bringing this in. Not to mention, has anybody on council once looked at this and seen that the property that we're talking about that's in question is 2 tracks, 1 track that touches Old 146 or Old Port Road, and 1 side touches 146. If you guys had come out and proposed it and said, hey, we can make a special variance for one reason only. You have an entrance only on that side and an exit only on 146. And that way you help alleviate any additional traffic that would possibly come down Red Bluff. On top of that, tell the people of Seabrook that you're going to help to provide an extra officer, especially during high traffic times, to make sure that we're actually policing and manning those areas, which we should be able to do with the tax revenue that would come from a facility like this. I am 100% agreeing with a lot of these people. Industrialized Seabrook, absolutely not. But we are also a port city. One of the things that really stinks, and I'm telling you this because I'm a commercial real estate agent, and I can tell you that one of the things that is currently destroying LaPorte is their absolute refusal to deal with the fact that they have one of the world's largest ports in their backyard. While our port might not be in Seabrook proper, let's face it, if anybody here who, while you can't vote, lives in El Ardeen, as my grandfather who lived off of Park and Geraldine will tell you, the port's in the backyard. That's not going to change. But what we can do is band together as a community and force these people to listen and to help actually promote things that are going to come through and help. Ma'am, you talking about doing a turnaround? Do you know who owns that property right there? It's not on record, so it's probably the state, somebody that can easily make a turnaround. That's a great idea. It's innovation that shouldn't have to come from our community. Our community isn't here to be the thinkers for our city. They're here to be the voice. And I think sometimes the city council has forgotten that the power of our government is derived from these voices. And if y'all want to keep them happy and continue to be elected, You've got to be the one that innovates for them. And so I agree that this property really does belong in an industrial sector because that's the only thing it's ever going to be good for. Otherwise, it's going to sit vacant for another 100 years because there's nothing else coming in there. It's port support. But y'all have to do something to help alleviate crime, homelessness, and traffic in order to make it acceptable and feasible for the people and the patrons of this city to properly live in this area. Red Bluff is a 2-lane intersection on the east side of 146. For God's sakes, we just had how many billion-dollar program come through with 146, and we couldn't spend this much money on making it a 4 or 5-lane dedicated turn lanes for trucks? Guys, we have to be the change for the people. We have to be the ones that are innovating for the people. They've spoken, but it doesn't change the fact that this is the best use for this property. But y'all have to make that acceptable for them. That's your job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 2.1, the specific public hearing. Conduct a joint public hearing on a request for approval of a final planned unit development to create a world-class freezer facility planned unit development comprising of 134.632 acres or square feet freezer warehouse, 84 vehicle parking spaces, and 19 tractor-trailer truck loading spaces located on approximately 7.19 acres of land. Sean?
Yes. So as the mayor just stated, project description is the project consists of 134,600 square feet of freezer warehouse, 84 vehicle parking spaces, and 19 tractor-trailer loading spaces located on approximately 7.19 acre tract of land. Just some previous action that was taken by both of these bodies. The Planning and Zoning Commission at its regular meeting on July 2nd of 2024 recommended that City Council approve a request for a preliminary plan unit development, the preliminary PUD, to establish a world-class freezer facility planned unit development. This development would consist of 134,632 square foot freezer warehouse, 84 vehicle parking spaces, and 19 tractor-trailer loading spaces situated on approximately 7.19 acres of land. The recommendation included the following condition: that an 8-foot tall masonry concrete wall must be constructed along the entire property line adjacent to the commercial hotel parcel to provide proper screening from the neighboring properties. Previous action that was taken by City Council on the same item. The City Council at its special meeting on July 2nd, 2024 approved the request for a preliminary plan unit development, preliminary PUD, to establish the world-class facility plan unit development. Again, the recommendation included the construction of the 8-foot fence. This item passed with council members McCall, Giagrosso, Tillett, Hefner, Hammond, and Mayor Kalepsky voting in favor, and council member Rasco voting opposed. This is the site in question. It's located right here where the cursor is. As you can see, as we discussed in the past, the major portion of this property is Zone C2. A small fragment of this property located in this location is actually currently zoned to LI, light industrial, which does allow warehouse construction by right within that zoning district. To the north, just adjacent to our city limit line, Gulf Winds Warehouse currently exists. And then right outside our city limits on Old State Highway 146, the first phase of Gulf Winds, which is outside our city limits, is located at this location. And then there's an adjacent warehouse and then an industrial facility located at this location. Across the street to the east is, within our city limits, is the new Transwestern warehouse. It's about 450,000 square feet. It is currently located in a light industrial zoning district, and that zoning district allows by right the construction of a warehouse. The property to the south of this is currently all the way from the limits of this warehouse all the way to the bottom of this C3 zoning district. All this property in this boundary area right in here is currently owned by the port. It's currently owned by the Port of Houston. At some point in time, the port will develop this property, and it's probably going to be some sort of industrial warehousing type facility. Much like they're building to the east at this location, their plans within this IDA, and which is out, this is outside the city limits. They'll continue to build this type of development because that's why they purchased the property. At this location, you can see right here, this is the alignment for Commercial Road. At one point in time, Commercial Road was shown to come across and go through this area and come up, and it was the old cruise terminal road alignment, and it was to serve cruise terminal road. At one point in time, the port has communicated to us that they weren't planning on building that segment. However, they wanted to continue to dedicate this location to access the property to the north and to the south. And then also I've delineated on this the site location for the preliminary PUD for the Quiet Warehouse project. This project has gone through preliminary approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council, and it has gone through the approval process with the Planning and Zoning Commission. So this project is scheduled to go to City Council for final consideration at the August 20th meeting. This slide here just is a blown up version of that really identifies the location. Again, the C2 zoning, the LI zoning, and then the warehousing that surrounds this property. And then to identify on this slide, to the south of that property, there is an existing hotel, gas station, and some retail. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and run through the actual PUD document that's been provided to the city for consideration. I did send this document to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to City Council a couple weeks ago so they could start their review process. So I'm just going to kind of run through and highlight a lot of this information so I don't read the whole entire document to you. But one of the things that's important always at the beginning, the general provisions, it does kind of identify the purpose of this. And so the PUD approval herein must be designed, constructed, and maintained in compliance with this ordinance. So this document is an exhibit to the ordinance document, if approved, that will be signed by council, by the mayor and approved. This district is intended to serve the operation needs of a frozen food storage facility. The district is designed to accommodate land use activities that meet the community goals and policies enumerated in the Comprehensive Master Plan 2020. As you guys are aware, we did go through a comprehensive master plan review a couple years ago, and some of the property on the northern area of town was identified for office and warehousing as part of that process. Oops, sorry. One thing that we always identify, there's regulations within our current zoning ordinance that prohibits certain uses of shipping and storage containers. So they did include this in this document, so there's no exclusions. Shipping and storage containers, whether used for outside storage as an inhabited structure or for any other purpose, are prohibited. There's only one exception to that is if a shipping container is permitted on site while it's on the trailer chassis. So when they're bringing those shipping containers in and out, or they on a trailer chassis, it's treated as a trailer. It's not treated as storage of a shipping container. This section all identifies all the exhibits and the different uses. And then I'm going to skip to D. As shown in exhibits D3 and D10, the PUD encompasses approximately 7.2 acres of land along the right-of-way, west right-of-way of way line of Old Highway 146 north of Red Bluff. This is important because it describes the project. And then E actually, again, goes back through and describes the square footage of the project. I think what's important in all this, too, is it's identified throughout this whole PUD document that The only use is, the only type of warehouse that's permitted on this property is part of approval of this PUD is a freezer facility. There's no allowance within this PUD document if they don't build this freezer facility that they could build a regular 134,000 square foot warehouse. It's prescribed throughout the document that it has to be a freezer facility. Then it goes into some detail that it's going to be tilt wall insulated panel freezer facility containing, again, the 134,632 square feet. And then it talks briefly about the driveways and the walls and the fencing. And then F talks about their signage regulations. Within the document, they're agreeing to just comply with Article 6 of our sign standards. Again, the proposed land use, this is important because, again, this is going to limit within this PUD document what can be built on this project. And again, they're limiting themselves to a single freezer facility of approximately 134,000 square feet. When you get into the development regulations, they're stating that they're going to apply with what the notation in here is they're going to apply with what's in this PUD document or what's listed within our code of ordinances, which is important. And then they're going to go into this document goes into the detail of the maximum height of this building shall not exceed 80 feet. And the facility itself will not exceed 65 feet in height from mean grade average. The document prescribes the front yard setbacks will be a minimum of 35 feet, side yards minimum of 25 feet, and the rear yard shall be no less than 30 feet. D actually prescribes that they're going to screen all their mechanical equipment, and then number 2 actually is where they've highlighted that they're going to be building the 8-foot tall masonry concrete wall adjacent to the the southern boundaries of their property between the hotel and the actual development. And then number 3 actually just states that in all other locations, there will be an 8-foot fence. But it's highlighted that they are in compliance with what the recommendation and the requirement that council required during the preliminary approval. Parking. They're not asking for any deviation from our parking standards. Landscaping, again, they're not asking for any deviation. They are providing an exhibit for landscaping. And same thing with signage. They're proposing to be in compliance with Article 6 of our zoning ordinance, which regulates signage within the city. Excuse me. Architectural standards, again, I'm going to kind of read this more. What they're proposing is, again, this building is a frozen food warehouse. It's stated over and over again, there's no opportunity for somebody to build a different type of warehouse on this project. It will have to be a frozen food or freezer type warehouse. And then it goes into that it's going to be insulated architectural panels, and the exterior walls, loading docks, mechanical areas will be constructed of concrete bearing walls. So this will be the majority of this building will be a tilt wall facility, and then the remaining area will be engineered to comply with our windstorm requirements, and it'll be a type of warehouse where they have the insulated panels to control the environment within the building itself. Building regulations, the color palette that's being proposed, this is one of the things that changed from the preliminary to the final. In the preliminary document, they were showing the building to be white and with blue stripes. They've changed it to a primary white building with black accent stripes. Some of this had to do with maybe possible conflicts with some other companies that may have some branding that has those blue stripes on it, and they didn't want to get in conflict with that, so they're proposing a black accent stripe in lieu of the blue. And then again, the statement that all, except for electrical transformers, everything else will be screened, and there's some limitations on how you screen and distances for these transformers. The development schedule, which is required per our PUD ordinance, if approved, the plan design, they hope to have that completed by November 24. They hope to submit for plan submittal for building permits in December 24. Plan approval sometime during February 25, and they hope to start construction March of 25 through May of 26. The exhibits that were provided, again, these are building renderings. So this is Exhibit D1. And then another building rendering. These were all inclusive of the preliminary PUD, so these are same exhibits. The only thing that's changed on this is really the color palette. This is an exhibit showing the site plan. In most areas, if you look at this, within the document, they created setback regulations that they're actually exceeding because you got unlimited area setbacks. So they're trying to build to a certain type of construction in the building code. And to be able to build with that type of construction, they have to have certain unlimited area setbacks to accomplish that. So you can see the sides 60s. And so they're actually creating within the construction documents, they're showing that they're going to be way under what they're providing for those type of setbacks, or way over, not under. Sorry. Again, floor plan of the building. As you can see in this building, it's just one big giant freezer with a bunch of shelves and stuff in it, and they'll be storing variable types of frozen foods. Again, rendering elevations. This is, you got a copy of the front, the sides, and the rear. Again, just some more examples of the elevations. Again, and site setback plan. This exhibit here is their sites for their signs. They're showing a Seabrook sign here, and then they're actually, again, complying with our sign ordinance, and it'll be a monument type sign meeting the dimensions of the actual sign ordinance. Just a project site plan, project site. This is actually the legal description of the property. This is part of the ordinance document. This Exhibit A has been separated out of this document, and it'll actually be an exhibit of the actual ordinance. This is their landscape plan. Again, they're showing their green space, their detention locations, and where they're going to plant their trees and shrubs as required by ordinance. This is just a survey of the property. It also shows the utility locations where they're proposing to make their connections. And it also has an overlay of the floodplain zones within that area. And pretty much a duplicate of that. And then this is a topo. So this is a topographical survey of the property, and it shows the ground elevations currently out there at that location. And it also kind of delineates that this is 2 tracks currently. If this is approved, they'll have to replat this into 1 tract of land, and this will become 1 site. With that, that concludes my presentation, and I welcome any questions everybody may have.
Not yet? In a minute. Go ahead, Gary.
Ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll start with, anybody on the commission have any questions? Okay. I'm going to wait and let you formulate better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to pick on a few, I don't mean pick on, I'm going to just ask a few questions that came up in public comments. One was the ability to exit onto 146, have traffic come out.
So what's been communicated to city staff is that applicant has reached out to TxDOT, and they've made that request to ingress and egress off of State Highway 146 feeder. And it's not an opportunity that they have with TxDOT. TxDOT's not going to grant any permits for ingress and egress from that location.
And we have no power of protection.
And we have no, I mean, it's part of their policy process, and they're not going to permit it.
Can you comment about the port plan again on that, the adjacent land?
Yeah, let me exit. So just recently, the port went through acquisition, and they actually acquired this tract of land through condemnation, and they now own this piece of
They
property.
don't have to comply with our zoning ordinances.
And, well, the port has a lot of the same powers that the city has. So I just mentioned that they went through condemnation. So that seller of that property at the time was not a willing participant in selling that property. So they have a lot of the authorities that we have. They're in a situation that there's a lot of question. Right now, this piece of property is zoned for warehousing.
Sure.
So they could build on this property without any approvals from the city, so it's allowed by right. I did mention that they own this C3 piece of property that's further south. And there's always going to be a conversation if their powers supersede ours and if they can build on that piece of property what they wish without compliance with our zoning ordinance.
And then there were, I'm sorry, I didn't use the mic, so I hope that didn't screw things up. Can you comment on any of the redesign aspects that are planned for that intersection?
So the port does understand that they are going to be building probably warehouse facilities at this location that we keep discussing. So this is going to be some sort of commercial development that'll be port related at some point in time. I don't know exactly what those plans are, but you can make assumptions of what that is. The city has been party to a lot of meetings that there are going to be improvements made on Old State Highway 146. Currently, the reconstruction of the Red Bluff intersection at State Highway 146 is part of the project that is now being constructed from Red Bluff all the way back to Fairmount Parkway. So there will be improvements made in that intersection, much like the audience was stating. That intersection is going to be widened and it's going to be reconstructed to accommodate a lot of the impacts that are being proposed further to the north. And so it's in process. It's part of that project now. It's in the works. It's actually being constructed.
And then my last question was, I just wanted to go back on memory lane. So when the project they were talking about 2 years ago was a warehouse, but that also came south of Red Bluff, right?
That's correct.
It was close to the residential area, and it didn't even fly the test of planning
That's correct.
and zoning at all, right? We voted it, and we were only voting on it because we have to honor anything that the applicant puts before us.
That's correct. I mean, our processes are if an applicant comes forward and wants to go through our processes, we're required by law to allow them to go through the process. We have to do our due diligence, and ultimately that project was turned down because of the input that was from the community. And also I feel that project was also turned down because it truly was being developed all around Red Bluff Road to the east, and it was impacting what we call internally is the Lazari tracts of property. Portions of that is zoned residential, and they wanted to encroach on that. And so it was how they were designing the project, there was a lot of hurdles to get over to even make it work and function. And at the time, the city agreed that those areas shouldn't be impacted. But this piece of property here is adjacent to a warehouse, and at some point in time, everything around this is going to be warehousing. I know the community doesn't want to hear that, but at some point in time, it's going to be some sort of port-related function that's going on around this property, naturally by who owns it and what's already developed around it. It's not going to be retail. If the existing hotel, I will tell you all, struggles from time to time. It's gone through multiple ownership. It's really in a tough location because it's close proximity to the port and how the port is going to operate in this area. As part of the comprehensive master plan, some of this has been identified, and there have been buffers and stuff created to keep any type of this development from occurring east over in the 146 area that we, when the Transwestern group came in initially, wanted to develop that. So there's been things that were identified 2 years ago when we went through the comprehensive master plan update where we were addressing those issues, and within the comp plan, it is delineating those areas of different uses and keeping the port activities north. And on this slide that I have here, I can't get to it, but most people are familiar with where the big detention pond is that's to the west of Public Works. All that area to the south of that has been delineated as a neighborhood commercial zone, and then everything above that has been designated as office warehouse. But there's not an opportunity within the comprehensive master plan right now to build that warehousing that was being proposed before along the Red Bluff roadway.
Just on clarity, for myself and the citizens now, State Highway 146 is controlled by the state. The city has very little control over that.
That's correct.
What's the issue with the police? Are we allowed to like run speed traps or radars? Or is that, we're not allowed on state highway to do that?
We can go on state highways and we can control traffic within our jurisdiction.
Okay. Now, Red Bluff, west of 146 is county road.
A small portion as you leave 146 and go to the west, a small portion of it is highway, it's TxDOT right away. And then once you, right before you get to Lakeside, it all converts into county.
Which is controlled
So
by.
again, but to answer your question, both of them are outside our control.
Now what about the Red
Different
Bluff intersection east of 146? Everybody's,
All TxDOT,
that is all TxDOT, and TxDOT controls that.
that's correct.
And we can make suggestions to them, but they're on their own schedule.
That's correct.
Okay.
And again, I mean, I want to highlight that 146 and Red Bluff intersection is currently in an active project with TxDOT, and that intersection is going to be addressed as part of that construction.
Is the plans and everything on TxDOT's website to where we can go look at it and see what the plans
They
are
are.
to redo it?
They are.
And also with the Port of Houston pretty much can do whatever it wants to with the Port of Houston Authority. They really don't have to follow.
I think this community is very
Guidelines.
aware that the Port of Houston is a very powerful entity.
It's its own animal. If they want to go out and raise $400 billion in bonds, they don't need an election. They can just go do it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, good question. We're done.
Okay, this is a public meeting. If anybody wants to make any comments, come on up to the microphone, make your comment.
Actually, I appreciate you leaving it this map. So if we're looking at this map right here, the area that you're talking about, that the preliminary PUD Quiet Warehouse project, is this being voted on at the same time? No. So you just included this in the map to talk about it. Okay, so these are two separate voting. Once that's done, it's done. It's a completely separate deal. Okay, that's what I cared about.
Thank you. Sir, or ma'am, did you have another?
I thoroughly understand.
No.
I thoroughly understand that most of this is a fight against the port that is ever encroaching on Seabrook. Back years ago, they ruined our Pine Gully Park, and we spent millions of dollars with lawyers and everything else just trying to get that park cleaned up. But we had people that fought for that. Otherwise, that would just, we wouldn't have trails down there to walk, or you wouldn't enjoy it. I'm just saying, until they get this traffic straightened out, let the port be responsible for dealing with Texas DOT. Let them figure it all out and get it straightened out and fixed before they start pushing these big warehouses on us. We have to stand up against the port. We want you to stand up against the port too. And then we can say, look, we understand you're eventually going to take this over. You can condemn it, you can do what you want. But listen to the property right now and the people, and we can't put their safety at risk. We need people that'll push back against the port just a little bit and say, look, we'll consider this after you fix up the traffic moves. When you make arrangements here, let them deal with Texas DOT. They have a whole lot more influence on them than we do.
Thank you. Ma'am? State your name.
Denise Schaefer again in Mystic Village. So I had two questions. One is you talked about that they won't, TxDOT won't allow the encroachment to go to 146. Is that correct? That they just don't allow it? What is the basis of them saying we will not grant that access? Do we ask that question, or would they just say no and we don't know what that's based on? Is it based on law? Is it based on, it has to be based on something. They are a public entity. So that's my first question. My second question is, we're talking about this Red Bluff development. And so do we have any timeline on this? Because as we have all stated, we have all lived through a long time already with 146 expansion and growing pains and all these situations. So the idea that we're going to have another 2 years or, and then we're going to have continued all this development before this intersection functions as it should with the amount of traffic that's poured into it seems to not really be very satisfactory for the citizens here in this community. Port Houston, I'm very, very familiar with Port Houston, okay? I understand the animal, and rightly spoken, if anybody has something to say to TxDOT, that's where it should be probably said through, because they would be the only one with a shot at doing that. But as a partner of the community, I would hope that City Seabrook would work with Port Houston. I heard talk about history of how that port came about. I was here during that. My husband actually worked for the port for quite some time back before that. And unfortunately, not working with them and lawsuits and things, that we, City of Seabrook, lost out on a lot of infrastructure that was being offered during that Port Houston debacle when they expanded. And I do understand the area that we're in. Yes, when you talk about the area they're talking about there, yeah, that's not going to be retail. You're right. It's going to be something commercial. It's more than likely going to be a warehouse. But you can't just keep putting these things in without taking into account how you are affecting citizens' everyday life. So if it means talking against or trying to work with big, powerful entities like Port Houston and the Texas DOT, I feel like we really need to use every single possible ounce of our fiber to do such thing so that the answer is good for everybody, right? Or at least amicable, I don't know, a compromise or something. But what we're experiencing right now, I'm telling you on a day-to-day basis, it's not fun. And if you don't live over there, you don't see it. It's just really kind of a day in, day out, not fun thing to live through. And to be quite honest, it makes you want to move. And if the interest rates weren't so high right now, I'd probably have a sign in my yard already. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick, just a general question. I'm going to steal your mouse you have here. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Chris, as you're looking. Where at on the old 146 where it comes into the Red Bluff Road tie-in, where can Seabrook patrol and where can we not patrol on this portion of the road right here?
I believe we can patrol all of that, right, Chief?
We could patrol all of that. Okay. With that being said, on a day-to-day basis, I'm not a DOT officer. Never wanted to be one, but I'm sure there is one here. I'm pretty sure a common civilian can spot 1 million trucks going down that road that probably are not roadworthy. So, with this being said, why don't we stick a DOT officer here? Let's start giving the tickets. The word will get out, stop coming this way. Also, how hard is it for us to put a signage right here? No through trucks. Make them go the path. We can't, impossible?
Yeah, that's county road.
Just a question.
It's a TxDOT.
That's a TxDOT portion? Okay. I'm all for the DOT cop, though.
Good question.
I was just curious, yeah, but let's look at the DOT cop. I mean, if you put the word out there that all these cheap trucks, look, I understand there's really good trucks, there's people trying to make a living, but if we start putting it to the point where you're starting to get ticketed by trying to make this cut through because they don't want to take the port road, they're going to stop coming that way.
Thank you.
Kevin Lilly. 2 years ago, we mentioned one thing that hasn't been brought up tonight. Pretty soon, you're going to have railroad tracks going underneath. Sooner or later, you will have a derailment there. I made my living 35 years on railroads. It will happen. You will shut down everything in that area. And if it's a hazardous spill, you'll not only shut down the feeder road, you'll shut down Red Bluff, you'll shut down Highway 146. And that's something I don't think you all have considered. But you do need to think about that. You'll have trucks coming off that 146 going 65, 70 miles an hour, trying to beat a train. And when it happens, you'll have a major screw-up. And the city of Seabrook will not be able to deal with it. The quickest you can get equipment here to reroute it and stuff, more than likely 2 hours. In some cases, if they're out in El Paso working another train derailment, it may take 12 to 24 hours. It's something to think about, and you better plan for it.
Okay, thank you.
Katrina McGuire, Mystic Village again. You mentioned that you've already got some kind of plans in the works for that area around Red Bluff to deal with the traffic. Why does that not get started before you break ground? I think you said February of 2025? I mean, you're going to build this warehouse before you even put up anything to deal with the traffic. And then when the warehouse is done and we deal with the traffic for however many years will that finally be done? That should be your first point of dealing with, I would think. Let's alleviate the traffic first. If the warehouse is inevitable, like I mentioned, I'm in the real estate end of things. I actually am a mortgage lender. I'm not a realtor. But that gentleman, commercial real estate, I know he knows what he's talking about. If that area is inevitable to be a warehouse because of the port, so be it. I mean, I'm not that smart. But at least let's deal with the concerns of the citizens and the traffic first. Put that in place and even get that construction started as quickly as possible, and then do the warehouse. Makes sense to me.
Ron Alhorn, I live in Mystic Village. Sean, this is a question for you. The yellow line at the bottom there, next to the gray or dark looking along Red Bluff, 2 years ago, the warehouses were going to be built on either side of Red Bluff. And we were totally concerned about how those trucks were going to navigate old Red Bluff around the curve. You recall that? And now you're saying that the port, that's an interest of theirs to condemn that property also? Did I understand it correctly? No?
I can't engage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We can make public comments. We're not supposed to.
Pardon me?
Not supposed to interact.
Okay. Well, that is a real concern that I think every one of us sitting out there should understand what was said just then about that piece of property. They were going to build over 1 million square feet of warehouses on either side of Red Bluff, past the curb, and that was Transwestern, and I thank you for listening to us on that one. But we are saying that it's in the picture right now again, is what? No?
No, sir.
Well, I hope not.
No, but everything is north of Red Bluff.
Everything is north of Red Bluff.
Yes.
Thank you.
No access to Red Bluff.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Favor or against? Okay. So we're going to close the public hearing. And we will, Gary, you'll adjourn?
You want to go ahead and adjourn this meeting? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? We have Darrell making a motion and a second from Guy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, City Council, do I hear a motion? All in favor? We are adjourned. We'll come back on our regular City Council meeting in a few minutes. What's that? Oh, you're good. No, you're signed up for this one. I got you on this one, too.